The World Wrestling Federation, for over 50 years, the revolutionary force in sports entertainment.
Oh, it's live, Hal.
We're really glad that you're our friend, and this is a friendship that'll never ever end.
Everybody three count. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Or maybe The Rock has got to beat Triple H himself, which means he's got to beat the game in the middle of the ring. And he has a $2 for a wife.
You're too damn selfish, and that's why you're sitting there with a bad leg, and that's why I kicked your leg out of your leg.
You guys talk about being students of the game. I am the game, JR.
3 ain't enough now, I need 5. Welcome in Jim, Ryan, Matt, Tim, and intern Mark.
Oh my goodness, what do we do? There's a 1, there's a 2. Oh, wow.
Well, you can take that brass ring and shove it up your ass.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to 3 Count Thursday. We are live here on Facebook, on our Facebook page, and we are glad to be with you. We have tons to talk about this week, including bringing positivity to the wrestling community. But first, make sure you check out our homepage at 3countthursday.com. You can also find all of our social media there, our YouTube channel, as well as our Patreon page, our merchandise over at whatamaneuver.net.
What a maneuver!
Thank you, Tim. We also stream daily at leebsports.com. Ryan, that would be?
Of course, that's LEEIBsports.com.
That would be it. You can also check out our home network, NGSC Sports, at ngscsports.com. Make sure you check out both of our podcast feed, the full broadcast feed, as well as the hot tag. You can check that out and subscribe to them. And if you subscribe to them on Apple Podcasts, give us a rate and review. Now, do not adjust your screens. There is a 6th man in with us tonight, and we've been sharing the announcements with you. We are glad to have with us Ant DeStefano from the Rant Foundation. Ant, welcome in to 3 Count Thursday.
What's going on, guys? Happy to be here. Another positive wrestling podcast. That's exactly what this world needs for the Twitter community, who are still comparing the ratings right now as we're talking.
It is Thursday, isn't it?
Oh, every Thursday you wait for Alvarez's tweet just to be like, here we go.
Every single one. If you're following along in the live video, give it a share. Get as many people in here as possible. We'd appreciate that. And let's go around the room here once I find the soundbite. Tim, where's the goddamn soundbite? Oh, I moved it last week. Tim,
How you doing?
I'm so glad this isn't work.
oh, good.
Boy. And I'm ready for Friday for multiple reasons. One, I'm probably going to drink a lot because Daddy needs his medicine. Also, Mario 64 comes out tomorrow, baby. I can't wait. I'm going in the middle of the workday. I'm taking my lunch break. I'm driving my happy hips to GameStop and I'm getting it. And don't tell anybody, but I might be playing it till I get off.
I mean, that's what happens when you buy new games, right?
If there's a fire, I'll put it out. But
sure, but otherwise,
ain't no smoke.
Yeah, Ryan,
How you doing?
Real good, Jim. I'm so glad you asked. I had a little panic earlier today. I saw that Betty White was trending on Yahoo News, and I panicked. Nope, it's her Lifetime Christmas movie is being pushed back a year to 2021. She is still with us, and it's going to be a great day.
Daddy, chill.
thank you. That's always good news. Matt,
How you doing?
I mean, I was doing great until Ryan told me I don't get Betty White's Christmas movie until next year.
That's fair.
Thanks for ruining that day, Ryan. But doing well. As you can see behind me, finally got the office wrestling stuff set up. There is room over on this side. You can see the bigger space. I'm going through the fat heads that they have to see which one that I want to purchase and put up on the wall. Jim, you would love to know the Bret Hart one does have drool coming out.
Oh, come on.
Now, so
God damn it.
You are ever so inclined.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Intern Mark.
How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing better than I should be. I am great. I'm looking forward to Monday morning so I can go to work and relax because it's only Thursday evening and I'm exhausted from the weekend. So I'm ready. Bring on Monday morning.
Now, Mark, I did see that there will be extended Hershey Christmas candy lane this year. Is that rumor or is that fully official?
That is fully official. Not only extended Christmas candy lane, but extended Hershey Park in the dark for Halloween. And for the first time that I can ever recall, Hershey Park will be open on my birthday. So I'm pretty excited.
Wow. So 2020 is looking up for at least one of us. How about that? That's amazing.
It took almost the whole year, but it's looking up now. So.
And then finally, our guest tonight, Ant.
How you doing?
I'll be doing better Sunday after the Philadelphia Eagles do what the Cowboys could not do, and that's defeat the Rams. But we did lose to the team with no name. But I'm doing a lot better than I was doing Sunday. AEW knocked it out of the park last night. I can't wait to talk about that. I think that was one of the best episodes they've had in the history of AEW. And I'm just excited to be on and talk some wrestling with the boys.
Don't you dare take that tone with me.
Let's keep that Eagle stuff.
Hey, can I just say the Owen Hart kick your leg out of your leg gets me every time. I'm an Owen Hart mark. He's my favorite of all time. So as soon as I hear the kick your leg out of your leg, I'm motivated. I'm ready to go.
I have a friend. He has a wrestling podcast, Take 3 Wrestling Podcast, and I always know when he's listening to our show because he'll text me about one of the drops in the intro. So I'm always glad that people appreciate that. But we're glad to be with you. We got some people in here on the live chat. Charlie, Devin, Lou, welcome in. Anybody else that's watching with us, please give it a like, give it a share, get as many people in here. And we're going to kick this thing off, of course, with our weekly segment, if I can find it. There we go. Of course, September the 17th, only one birthday today. You may love him, you may hate him. There's usually not an in-between. But Jim Cornette was born in 1961. And then also, in 1981, Ric Flair defeats Dusty Rhodes in Kansas City, Missouri to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. This was Ric Flair's first World Heavyweight Championship reign. Also, 1986, at a WWF television taping in Salisbury, Maryland, Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, who unfortunately, Bobby Heenan 3 years ago today had passed. But Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan are permanently paired together as hosts of Wrestling Challenge, creating one of the most celebrated announcing teams in wrestling history and my personal favorite. We jump all the way to in 2000, WCW held their fall brawl event, their final fall brawl event in Buffalo at New York at the Buffalo, New York at the HSBC Arena in front of only 8,638 fans. This would be the final fall brawl. The main event of the show was Booker T defeating Kevin Nash to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship in a caged heat match.
Yep. I just watched that last night.
Very nice. Now, they had to have had the upper sections tarped off for that, because that's like where the NHL Buffalo Sabres play, and 8,600 feels very small for that building.
Well, it's no surprise that the pay-per-view happened in September, and in March, they were gone.
They went bye-bye. All right, then. 2004, WWE holds a house show in Bossier City, Louisiana, with a theme being the tribute to Mid-South Wrestling. And finally, 2008, TNA announced Mick Foley would debut on TNA TV shortly, having signed a deal with the company. So those were a few items that happened September the 17th in pro wrestling history. So let's jump into it, and it is our. Oh, where's the goddamn? There it is.
The 3 count question of the week.
I had an ad over the button. Last week on Bleach Report, WWE had posted about CM Punk. I guess in an interview had said that nobody in the wrestling business is the next megastar, and this obviously kind of got the social media a buzz, and I thought it would be a really good question of the week. So, I mean, I guess the first thing that we could do, and we'll go around the room, is how do you define megastar? Like, is it just like Hogan, Rock, Austin, John Cena? Like, do you have to get to that pinnacle, or like how else do you define megastar? So Tim, we'll start with you. Like, how do you, because to answer this question, you kind of have to set a mark for yourself to what megastar actually means.
So megastar has probably changed its definition over time. But to me, a megastar is equal to the transcendent superstar, the one who the normal Joe on the street knows. That superstar passes the mom test. Like,
okay.
Does your mom know who Stone Cold Steve Austin is? Yeah. Does your mom know who?
Let me get the Austin 316 T-shirt at Green Dragon in Ephrata, Pennsylvania.
Right. Like, does your mom know who Andre the Giant is? Yeah. Like, so if they pass like the mom test, then I would say they're a megastar. They're known more out in the world, out in the wild, than they are the other stars that surround them in wrestling.
Okay. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, no, I mean, I just looked up the actual definition from Oxford, and it says a very famous person, especially in the world of entertainment. So very vague, but I think Tim hits the nail on the head. It needs to pass. I love the mom test. I love it as a great analogy. However, that question coming from CM Punk, I don't know if CM Punk was classifying himself as a megastar, but I don't think CM Punk passes the mom test.
I wouldn't think so. If that's your barrier, I would say that he probably doesn't. Matt, how do you define megastar?
I think it would be twofold, a little bit different in my opinion than the mom test, mainly because like my mom would probably know all these people just because she, hears me talk about them. So to me, it would just be a combination of, are they over with the fans and are they moving merch? So, it could still be quantified with like how much they're generating in terms of revenue with their merchandise sales. And are they bringing new viewers to the product?
Intern Mark, how would you define megastar?
A megastar. Well, I like the mom test like everybody else did. I had my aunt who has since passed. She was not a wrestling fan, but I remember talking to her one time about wrestling, and she knew, of course, Hulk Hogan, and she mentioned The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I would define it as somebody who almost becomes bigger than the wrestling business, like a John Cena, and of course The Rock and Stone Cold. Yeah, I would think maybe Alexa Bliss possibly could be the next one.
And Ant, how do you define megastar?
So a megastar to me is someone with crossover appeal, someone that can get you a draw after they leave wrestling and then come back to wrestling. Megastars don't just have to be in the ring. You can be a star in the ring, but it's what you do outside the ring to bring back to wrestling, which makes you a megastar. It's funny, CM Punk makes those comments, and the next day Sasha Banks is in a Star Wars trailer, and it's like, that can be a megastar. Roman Reigns doing movies, that can be your megastar. You have John Cena already a megastar. So I think it's just more, and I'm a CM Punk guy. Like, he got me back into wrestling. It's more bitterness from Phil. That's all it is to me.
Yeah, to me, and I think it probably changes by generation because, in like the 80s, you had like the Rock and Wrestling Connection, which obviously spread out into what MTV was at the time. And then kind of in the Attitude Era, there was so many more wrestling fans. So, you know,
they were drawing 6 million people an episode. So I, you know, TV Guide had Stone Cold Steve Austin on the front of it. If you're old enough to remember TV Guide. I mean,
yeah. People are like, what the hell is that? Wait, a TV Guide? What is that? The thing that you just hit the guide button on your
right.
remote?
Stone Cold just pops up on there, flipping you off.
You know, so like when you're talking like Attitude Era, I think there's probably numerous mega stars. I mean, Austin Rock, you know, I would venture to say that probably you know, like
Undertaker, definitely Undertaker.
Even if it's not Triple H, D-Generation X as a group, I would argue would probably mega star. You know, just because you know, and if somebody's doing the suck it, do they know what it's tied back to?
Like Batista is a good example.
Yeah,
Batista was a Hall of Fame wrestler, went out and is in the most popular Marvel movies. That's a megastar.
Yeah. So like, you know, now you're into the generation. I mean, and it expands in different ways because like, you know, Brock Lesnar went from wrestling to the NFL to MMA world, and you know, so people know him outside of wrestling, and now I think with podcasting and with Twitch and with YouTube and all these different platforms that wrestlers can use, you know, to today, I mean, I think there's a case for guys like the New Day to be megastar. I mean, you couldn't walk into an FYE, which I don't know how many people were walking into FYE in the last 5 years, but you walk in there and you're probably going to see, you know, the New Day cereal and, you know, New Day pops and New Day this. And, you know, so I think what megastar is, and there are a few comments here in the chat. Lou says someone who is well known to more than even the casual fan. So I think that's I as a kind of a general thing. I think we've all kind of
a megastar in wrestling's different. Yeah, CM Punk's a megastar in wrestling. Like,
sure,
you know, but AJ Styles. If I went down the street and said, "Hey, AJ Styles," I mean, who the hell is that? Is that a clothing line? Like, they don't know what that is. Like, so it's just, how did he mean it? Because even if he meant it like, who is a megastar in wrestling, it's Roman Reigns, it's Sasha Banks, it's Becky. Did you miss all of Becky Lynch? Did you miss that year and a half of Becky Lynch? Like, that's a megastar.
I mean, I would say the WWE's 4 horsewomen. They like, and they've marketed that, you know,
like they're putting Sasha Banks on Sunday football commercials. That is their face right now. That is their megastar.
Yeah. So I mean, it's and so then to kind of CM Punk's point, like, nobody is the next megastar. I don't, and again, it comes down to definition in the traditional sense of what we've all kind of known as a megastar. There may not be, because you know, I mean, we're talking right now, and we'll obviously in our next topic we'll touch on ratings and what they mean and what they might not mean. But like, if he's looking at it from, you know, a traditional standpoint, and he's thinking ratings and, you know, widespread popularity and this and that, there probably isn't necessarily a whole lot that you can point to and go, yeah, that definitely. And I think the key too is he did say wrestling, because I think some people were hammering that it was like him taking a shot at WWE. I think he did specifically say wrestling. You know, and again, it's I think in different ways there absolutely can be megastars, and there's people who are widely popular within the wrestling community. So yeah, if you're, it just depends on how it's defined. Tim,
do the other promotions have megastars? I mean, outside of Cody hosting a talent show, what megastars coming out of AEW transcending professional wrestling?
I mean,
besides Chris Jericho,
right? I mean,
but Jericho, Jericho's a WWE. He's a WCW guy, but he's a WWE guy. Like, that's Jericho made his mark in WWE.
Correct.
Yeah, and I would argue that he may have already been a megastar. So like,
yeah, like that was what the big deal with the signing. I mean, the dude does TV shows, podcasts. Like, that's someone who reaches out. He's in a rock band, you know, he has that.
Yeah, so he obviously wouldn't fit the bill of the next, underneath the EVPs. And I don't
Nobody.
see, I mean, if there's anybody I could point to that could potentially even be one day considered a megastar in AEW as of right now, it would be MJF.
Yeah. Yep.
But I don't really see that happening, because I don't. We're almost a year now to AEW TV, and yeah, they've hit 1 million a couple of times, after the initial first couple of weeks. But like, I don't know that they're jumping off the page to people outside of wrestling. I don't think they're jumping off the page any more than WWE is.
They're definitely not. I don't know who would you say was a megastar in AEW, like, or who has potential besides MJF, and MJF has a long way to go.
Oh yeah, long way.
Another megastar is Ric Flair, just because of the decades he has stretched it over. Like,
yeah.
You got to think this dude's in an Offset video dancing around at like 68 years old. And you're like now, like 13-year-olds know who Ric Flair is. There's a whole song about him,
Yeah.
Right. Him and COVID Wendy are doing Atlanta Falcon pump up videos
yeah.
for their video board to no fan. And I'm going, what was I'm looking at like a 70-year-old man in like the authentic, like, tight cut, Atlanta Falcons $300 jersey. I'm going, wow, that looks like Peyton Manning in the Papa John's commercial with the tucked in jersey.
Oh, Papa John's, man. 40 pizzas in 30 days.
But it's I don't think, Tim,
I think a good question to ask, if I could bend Phil from Chicago's ear, is, so who's the last megastar?
That's a good question.
Like, I would like to know who he thinks. He's probably going to say John Cena. Like, so if in my head, John Cena is the last megastar, I'm inclined to say he's right. Because the wrestling business today does not need megastars like they did in the 80s and the 90s. That's because back in the 80s, there were like 20 channels. And then in the 90s, you had like 50 channels. And now it's more than TV. It's the internet. It's all the streaming services. And the niche markets are hit more now in this era than ever before. So the New Day is a good example of someone who's a big star, but to what market? Like, to the nerds. Like,
right.
They pull in, thanks to Xavier Woods and Up, Down, Down, and the group he's collecting there. Like, he's collecting that group. And he's also helping out. They're helping out with, like, bringing in the minority fans and things like that, too. If you're looking at it strictly as, like, socioeconomic and looking at, like, that way. But, same thing with, like, the female superstars. They're bringing in the untapped female crowd to bring them in. But I don't know if, like, Sasha being in The Mandalorian and maybe having 2 lines, or Roman being in Hobbs and Shaw and saying nothing the entire movie.
Yeah, but that's how The Rock started. He was just a Scorpion King. He didn't really do much, and then they made a whole movie about him.
Right. I mean,
that's how they all start. So,
right.
I mean, I'm not saying Sasha saying 2 line in Star Wars is huge, but for Sasha Banks to get her start with The Mandalorian Star Wars is going to put eyes on wrestling, or it's going to put eyes on The Mandalorian.
Right.
I mean, they thought it was big enough to put her in the trailer, like a 90-second trailer, to include Sasha in. That means they feel that she has a good amount of star power.
Yeah, it's definitely, people are going to buzz. I mean, the internet wrestling community is going to buzz about it, because that's what we do. We just, anytime we see one of our own, we're going to say something.
And it was a surprise. That was the best part, is no one knew.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was like the shock factor.
It was funny seeing people, like, some ignorant comments about it, like, who is that? And they're like, oh, it's this such and such actor who may or may not be trans. And I'm like, what? Like, just do some research. Like, just think about it for a half a second. Like,
yeah, and just catch on a couple of comments here. We'll continue to go to round with Matt and Mark. Charlie says if Punk is looking at it from the perspective that no one is bigger than the company, like an Austin, Roxana, or Hogan, he is right. Lou says Orange Cassidy is going to bring back the silent film era. But yeah, I mean, it's in the traditional sense. I think Punk probably is right. In what he said, because yeah, it's different now than it was, and especially in the sense, like, like Tim, if you hit different groups and how different superstars connect with different with different markets. Like I know like Baron Corbin is like good friends with, I think, guys in like Shinedown, and he's like always posting like videos of like what meat he's grilling today. So he's kind of got that like Guy Fieri market going for Baron Corbin, and like so it's all different. People connect in all different ways. So the New Day is going to be popular with like video game crowds, and this person might be popular with a music crowd, or this. So it's they're going to be stars in their own way. But I think when it comes back to it, like you're going to have people that are huge with wrestling fans. I think that's been kind of a transition, is like we're seeing like these traditional indie guys, because they've come up through NXT, they're now on the main roster, or Impact's making a little noise here, or AEW is kind of giving some guys that have been on the indies a little bit more time. I mean, like Eddie Kingston has been like one of the most talked about superstars in AEW for the past month, and it's awesome because like all of us, we're on the East Coast, like we've seen this guy for years on the indies. It's like finally somebody's giving this guy a mic on a TV show. So in a different way, Kingston's a star. In a different way, this person's a star. Matt, your thoughts?
I mean, I'm going to agree with what everyone's saying. That Punk is most likely right in this instance. Even when looking back, not just like the biggest star, but the most over star with fans that we've seen since Steve Austin. It's probably Daniel Bryan. Is he a mega star? I would say probably not. But this is just kind of tough to gauge, because as wrestling fans, we can see greatness and we can appreciate what people do in the ring, but beyond the ring, if they're not really doing the guest spots on the commercials or the movies and whatnot, then it's tough to really judge and use the term megastar. So I mean, for him to say that, it's kind of a safe thing to say, because he can always quantify it. Well, I meant this.
I mean, could people like the Bellas be considered on the line of megastars because they've?
Hey, watch what you say about this, okay?
Well, okay, now Ant.
Watch what you say about my girls right here.
Okay, Ant. Real serious question.
That was
now.
quick to grab that. Jesus.
Oh, I have the whole wall over here, bro.
All right.
Serious question. Nikki or Brie? Which one do you prefer?
Bro, do you follow my post? It is Nikki all day long. Nikki all day long. I have.
You can't invite this guy to the podcast knowing he's a Nikki fan and act like you're surprised he's a Nikki fan.
Can I just tell a quick story? So the first time I go to WrestleMania, and my show, like my former show, Rant with Ant, was getting known. Someone goes, "Oh my God, you're Ant." I'm like, "Yeah, do you listen to the show?" They go, "No, you're the Nikki Bella guy." So I was the Nikki Bella guy before I was the podcast host. God damn it.
There you go. But like you could argue that they are megastars because they've expanded beyond the wrestling world. They have wine. They have
but I mean that people know, and Dancing with the Stars and stuff like that. I just think that Phil isn't giving people enough time. Like if you're talking megastar in wrestling, that's because WWE 50-50 books everything. It doesn't matter who you are, unless you're Roman Reigns, and I'm a Roman fan, but think about Seth Rollins. He's going to be 50-50 booked now. Like they all take turns losing, right? So you're not going to build that megastar, and you don't really follow it. Like there's no continuity with the stories anymore. The best story we've seen was Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. And I know that's on the topic list of how it's like stories versus characters and in ring work, but that has something to do with what's going on in pro wrestling and why there's not this huge megastar that's putting butts in seats, because it's a different era. And I'd rather go see 10 good wrestlers than one wrestler working with someone who can't, like that's just how I feel about it. How many Hogan main events were good? Can we start with that?
Yeah, and that'll definitely fit into our next topic. Mark, any other thoughts to this? Or Ryan, you didn't really get much either on this.
To me, I'm just surprised you guys didn't say Pat McAfee.
That's a good one. It's a good one. He's going to be a star in wrestling. Watch.
You watch.
That dude surprised the shit out of me.
You still with us,
No one
Mark?
had mentioned the Miz as a possible breakout star.
I was just about to bring him up. Yeah, I was after you got your spot in. The Miz, like, again, like underappreciated, underthought of, but like he's right there. He's doing
Cannonball.
He's doing all the stuff like Cannonball. He's in movies.
But can you say he was a star before wrestling? Because everyone knew him from the real world when that used to draw like 9 million people to watch people live together.
Right. But he's like taken that and used it as a springboard.
Elevated
like,
it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would think in pop culture world, right? If you saw someone from like Johnny Bananas, for instance, from the Challenge walking down the street, or the Miz, if I'm just a casual person, I probably know who Johnny Bananas from the Challenge is because we've all grown up with him for 30 years doing it. You know what I mean? So that's just.
Yeah, I actually think more people would know Johnny Bananas versus the Miz, and that's not slighting the Miz. I've been a Miz guy.
I love the Miz
since the real world, like even before he even was in the WWE. But yeah, I think he's so far removed from that world that, you know, that I don't think now with Miz and Mrs. and Cannonball and movies and things like that, he's, I think, kind of creeping into that world. And I know he's done a lot of like fantasy football things with NFL.com and whatnot. So he you know, I think he could be approaching that. I think that's a great point, Tim, that he could be approaching that mark in the next couple of years as well. But you know, I don't know if it's what Phil from Chicago was referring to.
You're gonna sit there with a straight face, Jim, and tell me that more people watch The Real World than have watched Santa's Little Helper.
I know it's a bold claim. You know, it's you know, it's a year of hot takes, and you know, I could probably be wrong, but yeah, I will venture a guess that like just a couple more, small margin.
Yeah,
but
all right, that's fair.
Another thing that I think might contribute to the lack thereof of megastars is, it's a topic I've talked about before, but like all the wrestlers now are athletes who, for the most part, wanted to be wrestlers. So they saw the blueprint of The Rock and Stone Cold and Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant being larger than life. So all of them are coming in with this mindset of being larger than life. And if everyone stands out, no one stands out. That's what makes Hogan different. That's what makes The Rock different, because there was no one doing what they did at the time. And that's what elevated them to a different level. If everybody's great, nobody's great. Like it's a very much a platoon feel now with wrestling, because everyone's just so dang good. It's the bad ones that we can point out and be like, Eric Rowan, get out.
Can we just like, and that's a perfect example, because let's look back to like WrestleMania 29. Everybody wanted Dolph Ziggler to win the title because Dolph Ziggler was the cream of that wrestling crop.
Yeah.
Now we see Dolph Ziggler and we're like, get off.
Right.
Like,
he's so good.
So
but
that's the
also,
funny thing is like Phil can sit there and talk, and I like CM Punk. He brought me back to wrestling. I love him. But would he even be a top 5 in-ring performer right now?
No.
I'm hard pressed to say yes.
No.
Right?
Now, no.
So he would just be another guy with tattoos, you know, like now everyone has tattoos.
Yeah. The only thing that could potentially set him apart would be his
0-2 UFC career.
Hey man, Mickey Gall is no tomato can.
He got beat by Michael Jackson.
All right, so a couple people in the comments here have left a couple of names of people they think could become mega stars. Charlie says Karrion Kross. I tend to disagree. Like, I think he's known in wrestling. I don't think he's going to be known outside. Adam Cole.
Adam Cole's a really good pro wrestler, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't.
Niche.
Yeah.
He's niche. Like,
yeah, and I get, like, don't get me wrong, the McAfee stuff, the match was great, but like in the broad world that is like sports media, you probably don't, at least as of right now, don't really know who Pat McAfee is.
But you don't know who Adam Cole's not a specimen. You don't look at that guy and go, that guy's a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
You look at him, you're like, oh, he probably surfs.
Like if you
dude surfs on weekends.
If you went to Mall of America with Adam Cole,
yeah,
nobody's, there may be a handful of people tops in an 8-hour day that would point you out and you go, there's Adam Cole. But the majority of people are going to be like, that guy's got long hair.
You just got to look the part.
I feel like, Jim, you're speaking from experience. I don't know. I just feel like there's a story there.
All right. So Christian Wrestling Federation was this company out of Texas back, it was like around the year 2000, 2001. There's a guy, you may have heard of him, AJ Styles, was wrestling with them around the beginning of TNA Wrestling. They came to a 3-day show, a series of shows in my hometown, Ryan's hometown, Matt's hometown. And part of the deal was you bring them in for a 3-day. You don't have to pay them, but you have to house the wrestlers. So it was done through my church, and my parents at the time like helped set it up. And AJ Styles stayed at my house. And literally I went to the local mall with AJ Styles, especially at that time. Nobody knew who he was. And like, here I am just walking around the mall, AJ Styles. It was cool as shit for me. I was like a senior in high school. And like,
were you the big spoon or the small spoon?
Clearly I'm the big spoon in that one. Like,
did you get the phenomenal forearm or the phenomenal fist?
He's that I will not divulge. That
he didn't get that far up to get to the forearm.
That's between me and AJ and the walls of my old house.
At the same time, you can't really compare the Park City Mall with Mall of America.
No,
that's a fair point too.
That is fair. Yeah, I am not comparing those two.
Obviously, the food courts are different.
Little bit.
Was Woolworth still at the mall, Jim, or were they gone by then?
Probably. I think it still was. But yeah. And then Charlie also says Keith Lee.
Maybe.
Tough.
Maybe. It's tough to say because
he's on the wrong side of 30, so he doesn't have the time to really put in to get.
How old is Keith Lee?
34, 35?
33, right?
Can we look that up? Can somebody look that up?
I don't know. But they're also 50-50 booking him already. Hey, welcome to the show, kid. You're going to lose.
Well, he has.
I had to look up who Johnny Bananas was. I've never heard that name before.
You never heard of Johnny
5
Bananas?
minutes ago. Never.
So Keith Lee turns 36 in November.
That is definitely the wrong side.
Another dude older than me. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, wrong side of 30. Because if you've been following us since the beginning, we know that 33 is that benchmark. So
well, unless you start before then, right? Because I'm guessing because Orton's doing the best work of his career.
Right, well,
so like,
if you get the late side of 30.
He's still on the wrong side. He was the guy that set that mark 6 years ago when we started this show. On one episode, we were talking about Randy Orton, and I'm like, I just dropped. I'm like, he's on the wrong side of 30, and he was 33. Like, ridiculous statement.
You want to take that? You want to march that back right now? Greatest of all time, still doing it?
No, you know what? I'm still going to put it out there. I didn't say that like you have to die once you're on the wrong side.
No, because AJ Styles didn't sign until he was what, 40?
Yeah, he was well on the wrong side by the time.
Conrad Thompson's favorite stat: AJ Styles is 39.
Oh, chat me up on that. Who's booking this shit?
Charlie also adds Rhea to that list, and again, I say no. I think
a niche community. If like Rhea's like a heavy metal chick, like she probably goes to a lot of like post-hardcore shows that I'm at, but like it's like I don't know.
Yeah,
it's really hard to tell what the WWE is going to do with somebody a month or two away, let alone years to set the foundation for them to be a megastar. I think Angel Garza is one of the hottest commodities that they have, and the guy has a ton of upside, a great look, and a great gimmick. But if they don't do anything with them within a year or two, no one's going to give a shit about Hector Garza's cousin or nephew or whoever the hell he is.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is when you think about, at least some of the earlier megastars, Hogan and Flair, and if you're going beyond the wrestling world, Roddy Piper, I think could be argued as one.
Yeah, I would actually put Piper over Flair, especially like in their prime. I don't think Flair hits like mega stardom until much later in life, like 5 years ago, when ESPN did their 30 for 30.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
Flair,
right. So, yeah,
Flair had nothing outside of wrestling, really. Like Roddy was in movies.
but I would say people at least were aware of who Ric Flair was, probably at least into the night. Like once you got into the Monday Night Wars, I think people were probably aware of Flair outside
But
of
they were aware of him as the dude who was getting his ass whipped by the NWO.
Well, that's fair.
Like you think like wrestling history, right? Like when you grow up, you don't know about the Ric Flair, like in the $10,000 alligators with the big gold belt over his shoulder. You don't know that Ric Flair if you're our age, right? You have to go back and research that Ric Flair. We get the Ric Flair who's elbow dropping his fucking suit jacket. Like that's the Ric Flair we get.
He's a meme at that point.
Yeah, like
he's crazy. He's legit insane.
He's a real big dude.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So, but again, now it's because back then you had 1, 2, 3 pay-per-views a year. You had Saturday morning TV that a lot of time the champion wasn't on. Now, if like the champion misses a week, like Twitter's blowing up, they're disrespecting the title. So it's the world is so much different. It's so much different even than it was. Again, looking at you a little ahead to our next topic than the Monday Night Wars was. Lou asked, do you think it has to do with the lack of attention span of people today?
Yes, absolutely.
Probably some, yeah.
I don't know if it's lack of attention span or just how fast the news cycles are now because of how fast everything else is moving. So people have to stay at that same rate. Like
I would compare it to sports. Like sports has some big megastars. Like Mike Trout is a megastar in the sport, right? Mike Trout's the best player in baseball, maybe going to be of all time, probably, right? But if Mike Trout was walking down the street, would you know him? That is the thing. You knew who Ken Griffey Jr. was. You knew Mark McGwire. You knew Sosa. It's the age that we live in. Not like there's some sports, like some sports figures, LeBron James, that's a megastar, right? Someone who is Kobe Bryant, megastar, right? Like when he passed, everyone knew who Kobe Bryant was. I think it's a sign of the times that just megastars are so few and far between. Yeah. And you say LeBron, but LeBron's been at it for 17 years. So what new megastars are there in sports?
Ridiculous, by the way, that he's been in the league that long.
It kind of has to do with like how broad everyone's interests are. There's so many different things popping up. Like there's so many e-gamers now that are huge. I wouldn't recognize a single one of them.
Yeah,
but,
like
everything that goes
Ninja,
with them.
Cloaksy, Tim the Tatman, like
it's all niche. Everything's a niche megastar now.
Who?
Right, like
The Rock. Honestly, The Rock. Like movie stars are like the megastars. Like The Rock.
Yeah, The Rock, Batista,
Scarlett Johansson. Like you know who these people are, right? That's like or musicians. So like I would say it goes music, then it goes movies, and then it goes niche. Everything's just whatever you belong to.
And the crazy thing is, like at this point, there's probably a bunch of movie fans that have no idea that The Rock was the biggest thing in wrestling.
Probably not.
Like that's how far removed, he is. So and also too, I think, it is attention span in a way, because if and when WWE does kind of tell a longer story, and by longer story, I'm even talking 3 months. They're like, I've seen so many people like, oh my God, this story's been going on forever. The Mega Powers exploding was like an almost 2-year story arc, man. Like, and I get it's a whole lot different now. There's 8 hours of TV every week.
And I don't even think so much that it's like 3 weeks of a 3 month long story in wrestling is long, but it seems like every 3 month story they tell is a rinse repeat of the last 3 month story they tell.
Yep.
It's almost the same. Like, nobody was complaining about Marvel doing a 20-ish movie 10-year arc from Iron Man until Captain America. Or
I don't know. You put Mickey Rourke in that Iron Man 2, and you're kind of like, come on, man.
I liked Whiplash. He was
like,
good.
come on, Randy the Ram, go back to jumping off the top rope, bro. Get out of
Right,
here.
but like, so few and far between. But still, like the actual storytelling.
Oh, it was a beautiful story.
Right. So it's not our era who can't keep up with a 10-year or a long-term story. Give us a story worth being invested in, and we will. We were with the Shield.
Yeah, that's true. We were also with Daniel Bryan. So.
Right.
The thing with the Marvel movies, though, is that most people that got into it knew, like, just to coin the phrase, the end game was going to come. Like, we knew it was building to something like that. As wrestling fans, we've seen so many times that there's build, and then they're just like, fuck it, and they start over again. So that's why I think it's tougher for wrestling fans to really embrace a slow build like that. Like, you know, we kind of have seen with the Fiend to an extent, but I think that's the closest we've come since the Shield to a build of something that can be really big.
Yeah.
Come on, Matt. They don't drop the ball with characters.
Also, though, I think there's a lot of like, and again, it kind of relates to sports, but it's like a "what have you done for me lately" kind of feel. Like, if you just had a bad showing, or you're not being focused on right now, like, you want to know who sizzled out really quick in the eyes of the wrestling fans? No one's talking about Otis at all.
Thank God.
No.
Thank God.
As a
He's
chunky
staying
boy.
the tag team.
All
right, imagine Jim Neidhart getting pushed for a title.
And if you
that power gut deserved the title reign.
You better watch what you say. There's a lot of big men in this room.
Hey, listen, it's not because he's big. It's just because he's a tag team. Like, he's like when they were trying to do something with Big Cass. You're like, no, just be a tag team guy. Just go be a tag team
Big
guy.
Cass didn't have the same type of charisma that Otis does.
Yeah, but could you? I know Otis is a big dude. He's strong, but you're gonna put Otis on a poster instead of Brock, Roman, Finn, Seth.
You put Mandy Rose right next to him. The poster.
Yeah, well, you put Mandy Rose on anything,
yeah,
including my face.
Money.
That's fine. But
what's Nikki Bella saying about that?
She's not active right now, okay? She can't do that right now. She's 6 weeks removed from a baby. You can't do that shit.
That's true.
Tomato chips. That's one. And had Becky Lynch not been pregnant and they had to give the Raw title to Asuka right away, I think Otis would have been better served being the almost immediate cash in.
Yeah.
As a
Otis should have been the lifeline, so Braun didn't get it, honestly.
You're not wrong there. Like, Braun should have won and Otis should have just cashed in.
But I don't see
Otis should have cashed in a month before he had the briefcase.
No, just like Goldberg and Braun beat each other up, and then Otis just comes in and pins Braun, and
he hits the caterpillar on Goldberg, and then it's
let's just get it over with, right? Because like they gave Corbin the briefcase, he failed. Like, I just think it's going to be a failure. You think they're going to push him over Roman and the Fiend? The Fiend is the most popular thing in pro wrestling, and Roman as a heel is getting like 5 million views on YouTube. So it's like, okay.
It depends on like what type of hijinks they want to do. I don't think he does it on SmackDown. I think if anything, they might send him over to Raw to follow Mandy.
Yeah, I think that happens.
And then
in the chat, Otis gives the common man son of like Dusty. So you're comparing him to Dusty. I've never seen anything in the ring or on the mic that compares him to Dusty Rhodes, because
other than being fat,
Dusty's fucking top 3 promo of all time.
Oh, I love Otis, but calling him the new Dusty Rhodes.
If he was like
Keith
Dusty,
Lee
I'd be wearing
Dusty
a steak
Rhodes.
weight shirt right now. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like
body by steak.
I have the body by steak shirt because it's actually a state of it's like a state of being for me. Like,
no, I like him. I just think like tag team mid card. I think it was a rush decision to shock people, and it was the COVID era. Now the COVID era is kind of over with the Thunderdome, and they're like, "Oh fuck, he has the briefcase, doesn't
but
he?"
what happens when the Thunderdome goes away in like 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, well, that we have that coming up in news. Let's hear. Just wrapping up a couple. Jason says the reason there won't be any more megastars because the way the younger generation feeds their interest. They're all internet stars and YouTube people. Yeah, that's kind of what we've been hitting on. So like they're stars within their niche groups as opposed to like these big, huge, expanding beyond the world of wrestling. Now, again, you're going to have, potentially like the Sashas that maybe be able to start a movie career that people will know through that realm. But otherwise, I coming back to the main point, I think in a way at least, Punk is accurate in what he said. Like I know a lot of like wrestling fans were like, this isn't true, and like there are some megastars now, but overall he may be right, at least like we said, in the traditional sense.
Like, does anyone coming up or currently on the roster give off that feel of like the crossover potential?
Are we talking like new stars? Because like I keep going to Roman just because the look he has. Like, if you know what I mean, and maybe he can act, and maybe we don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you don't know. Like, I never looked at The Rock like as a character. I was like, man, The Rock's a great character. If you told me The Rock was going to be the biggest action star in the world, I would be like, you're crazy. What?
Well, I mean, the Rock always had that charisma, that way on the mic that Roman's never shown off. That would be my only hesitation.
And that's my hesitation with Roman too, is his promo game. But cutting a live promo and acting, or tell Matthew McConaughey go cut a promo. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a different, like, you can act, but you don't have to be good on a microphone to act.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
I would say Roman, like the facial expressions, like for instance, like when he sold AJ Styles coming out to the ring, like you were like, oh, something big's happened. Like this dude's a big deal, you know? So I do think that goes into acting, but I also think Roman's going to put butts in the seats as a heel. I think they should have did this years ago, because I always said they should have followed the pathway of The Rock. The Rock, same thing, came in, young talent, good looking, people booed the shit out of him, wanted him to die. They turn him heel, and then he becomes the biggest thing in wrestling.
I think if I'm looking at like male stars right now, the only one that I feel like could it potentially have that potential, if you're looking outside of the wrestling world, potentially movies, stuff like that, would maybe be like a Drew McIntyre. Just like, and I think it's just because he has like the.
What are we recasting, Braveheart?
Okay, someone's never watched Seth Rollins and Sharknado 4 then, if they're not seeing the appeal.
Oh, was that out already? But yeah, I honestly don't know. I don't know who or what is that person to really branch out. I don't necessarily see it in like up and coming stars. I really
a lot of that comes with the mic work. I think having that comfort to cut those promos just readies you a little bit more for Hollywood. And I say that while at the same time saying that Batista's probably, catching up to The Rock, and
he couldn't cut a promo like, give me what I want. You know what I mean? Like, he just yells.
That's kind of what he does in Hollywood. Like, he found that kind of gimmick to play off. So, it's possible, but no one really stands out aside from, maybe, a Roman, possibly a Seth.
Yeah.
I don't know how to tell you guys this, but at the end of the movie, Iron Man dies.
All right.
Spoiler alert.
Let's move on here, and it's a topic that again, my pal from the Take 3 Wrestling podcast, Ernest Christian, he and his crew had kind of tackled this a little while back, and it's been one of these things like I've had on like the potential topic list for a little while, but it kind of feels somewhat appropriate given that the Wednesday night wars may not be warring for much longer. And it's kind of looking at, because like obviously again, every Thursday wrestling Twitter gets blown up with talk about ratings and demo gods and COVID gods and who beat us and who won in the 18 to 34 and this and that. But like the Attitude Era / Monday Night Wars versus now, and like there's obviously so many different layers to it, but like for me, I kind of go, well, what type of fan are you? Are you looking more for like entertainment, shock value, this feeling of what the hell can happen next? Or are you looking for great wrestling? Because if you're looking for great wrestling, don't watch the Attitude Era. Like if you go back and watch some Nitros and some Raws from like the glory years, like I went and I found, like I looked up what like the highest rated Raw in history was, and I forget the date of it, but like I went back and watched that show, and like the storylines were wild, and it was, signs all over the crowd, and promos here and promos there. But like I think there was like 3 matches on the show for like a grand total of about 7 minutes. Like there wasn't great
what
wrestling.
Was like the main event that night?
It was the May 10th, 1999 edition of Monday Night Raw. It's the only one to ever break the 8.0 mark. The main event was a 6-man tag. It was Triple H, The Undertaker, and Shane McMahon versus Vince McMahon, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and The Rock.
Let's hear it, Jim.
The best in the world.
This is my last episode.
Matt, what further proof do you need? Anyway, sorry, it was those 3 versus who? Uh-oh, Tim forgot.
What now? Who won?
It was those 3 versus who?
Oh, Vince McMahon, Stone Cold, and The Rock.
That sounds like it's 7 stars in Japan.
Now, can I tell you what the second highest rated Raw of all time is?
Sure.
May 1st, 2000. What's the main event? The Rock in a steel cage match for the WWF Championship against Shane McMahon.
Best in the world.
Oh, man.
My work here is done.
When I was unpacking in this new house and I pulled the Shane McMahon WrestleMania jersey that I got as a Christmas gift out.
There's a space on the wall right next to the DX poster. You can shadow that.
I already sent it away to get framed. Like there's going to be 8x10s under it. I got some of the dollars that flew at WrestleMania. It's going to be a whole thing. But it was either that or throw it right in the garbage. But since it was a gift, I had to keep it. So might as well frame it.
Thing sucks.
That's fantastic that Shane McMahon main evented the 2 highest rated Raws of all time. But yeah, like the shows from a wrestling standpoint were not good. Like characters, there was obviously, I think, a ton more characters then than there was now. There was obviously more what the hell is going to happen next. But if you're talking quality of show, again, it depends how you view quality. Ryan.
Man, no, I mean, it's not even a question right now, because Wednesday night is not must-see TV. You don't go to school the next day and you don't have people saying, oh, did you see what happened on Dynamite last? You had to watch Raw because you were in high school or in middle school, and like that was the thing it was very popular to watch pro wrestling. It's just not as popular as it is. And you can thank the internet, you can thank kayfabe, you can thank DVR, so you don't have to watch it live. There's a plethora of reasons, but it's not even in the same comparison, war to war, Monday night to Wednesday night. It's a non-factor. Absolutely. You had to watch. and you just wore that freaking back button off.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
You had to.
Yeah, we bought new remotes because eventually the back button doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And mom and dad get pissed because like when they want to go from CBS News to NBC News, they can't do it. You know,
Right. I didn't watch any wrestling last night, but still consumed AEW and NXT before tonight.
And Ryan, I totally agree with you 100%. Like, it is not must see TV. Now, is it must see for wrestling fans? Maybe, but larger than life characters have kind of disappeared in professional wrestling. They had a lot of like superheroes almost. So the anti-hero was Stone Cold, and it was must see. Everybody wanted to see it. Now, Jim, I'm going to disagree with you with all of the wrestling was bad during the Monday Night Wars because the cruiserweight division paved the way for a lot of what wrestling is today. So we have to give that a little bit of a shout out. Obviously, it didn't do the numbers of like Goldberg just spearing someone. That was cool back then. That was destruction. Sure. It was new. You know what I mean? And now we don't like that. We don't like squash matches. We don't want to see that. So it's times have changed. But again, there is no water cooler talk now. Like you go elementary school. I was in elementary school during the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars, and that's all we talked about, right? In high school, I stopped watching wrestling, and I don't think I knew 4 people total who watched pro wrestling. It just became, it was hot, and then it wasn't. And is it building back up? Yeah, but it's a very niche market. Again, it goes back to the megastar thing. Pro wrestling will never get 8 million views because megastars really don't exist.
Well, and again, it's TV viewership is so different. I mean, even look at Monday Night Football. If everybody wants to talk about ratings, like this year's doubleheader Monday Night Football compared to last year was down 27%. Now, does that necessarily mean that 27% of people that watched Monday Night Football last year on opening night doubleheader didn't watch it this year? No, there's also a lot of different ways to do it. I think
people
a lot
are
of
smart. People are streaming. People are cutting cords and streaming.
Exactly. People are cutting cords. People are just finding streams online. People are doing things like YouTube TV and Hulu Live and stuff like that. So you don't necessarily have to be a traditional Nielsen house to view your product. And you know, for me, and I've said it before, like, yeah, if I miss like a week's worth of shows and it just kind of slips through my fingers, I'm not necessarily gonna go back and feel like I have to watch all 2 hours of NXT. I have to watch all 2 hours of Dynamite. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to head to either WWE or AEW's Twitter page or their YouTube channel. I'm going to find the 3-minute clip that they put up of certain segments, and I'm going to watch those because or I'm going to wait till next week and they're going to show me what happened last week because that happens as well.
You got to think. So say Roman Reigns turning heel, lining with Paul Heyman gets 2 million views. Maybe some of it's rewatched, right? But most of it's people who didn't watch the show.
Yeah.
So you got to think on the grandest scale. Let's say half the people went there because they didn't see the show, and SmackDown draws a 2 million rating, right? They had 2 million viewers and then 2 million YouTube views, right? Well, let's say 1 million of them haven't seen the show. Well, there's 3 million right there that are still keeping up with the product. They're just not watching live.
Yeah, I mean every single and like that was the point we used to make. Like when people get really hung up on Raw ratings and stuff like that, I'm like, you have to go to YouTube and check, like, you know, like the Bobby Lashley and Lana wedding did like 3 million views in 2 days. Like, was it garbage? Sure, but why were they hammering that storyline? Because people were watching it. If you watch it on YouTube, that's money. You people watch it on Facebook, that's money. All of that's rolling into WWE's pocket, same as those TV contracts. So like it's a different ball game. Matt, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, thinking back to the wars, I mean, like you guys said, I would watch WWE, but the TV upstairs would be filming WCW, which I would then watch in the morning, you know, on the VHS tape. Wonder if I still have those. But you know, there doesn't seem to be the urgency these days, and that is just because it's so much easier to just catch up on clips if you really want to know the product. So it is kind of a disservice to just look at ratings because of that. I mean, I DVR both I don't watch either NXT or AEW live, but I do catch up on them, so I can fast forward through everything. Having a 1-year-old unpacking this house, like I don't have time to just sit and watch TV as much as I would like to. So, that gives me that freedom to do that. So does that count in the ratings? Probably not, but I am still watching both.
Yeah. It's all it's consumed in like last night. I didn't flip back. I watched NXT, actually watched NXT live last week because I thought maybe they're gonna start off the show with the Regal announcements, and I'm not even sure we got 2 Regal announcements. I know there was one, but I don't recall the second one unless that was the women's battle royal. But like that wasn't like designated as from the desk of William Regal. It was. But then immediately when NXT was over, I flipped over. I actually fast forwarded to the main event match because everybody was talking about it. And then I went back and watched the rest of it from the beginning, finished it this morning because I was just like, all right, I'm going to bed, stop it halfway through and finish watching it. So like, yeah, it's consumed in just so many different ways. Intern Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, I find myself, well, I have a cut the cord. I have a super box, so there's no way for them really to track what I'm watching, I guess. But I don't usually watch AEW live, and then I kind of fast forward sometimes through NXT. Same thing with Monday Night Raw and even SmackDown. It's just to sit there and watch Raw for 3 hours or SmackDown for 2 hours gets to be a little too much. So I skip through it. I'll watch some matches, and there's other things I really have no interest in. But yeah, the way people consume television products anymore, TV shows and whatnot, is completely changed since the Attitude Era. So I don't know. It's kind of tough to compare the two nowadays versus, even early 2000s.
I mean, sorry to like cut anyone off, but to go back to that, I mean, during the Raw Attitude Era, we got 6 hours of wrestling on TV, 7 if you count Sunday Night Heat, and 6 of those hours happened simultaneously. So it wasn't, 9-10 hours of wrestling on TV. If you're watching Impact 11, 12, however long that show is, 13. But like there wasn't all this wrestling to consume in a week. You had 6 hours on Mondays and an hour on Sunday.
Can we just be honest too? Does anybody and we're wrestling fans, right? We invest money in wrestling. Does anybody look at the clock Monday and go, man, I can't wait for Raw tonight?
I mean, it depends if they make some sort of announcement beforehand.
But they need, but like when have you for real though? I'm excited about SmackDown and stuff because there's new stuff going on. The Fiend, Alexa, there's so many stories going on over there. But I don't remember the last time I sat there and I remember being in school and looking at the clock. I cannot wait till I'm done my homework to watch pro wrestling tonight. And I just don't think they have that and maybe it's because I'm older and again, kids and work and wife and everything kind of takes away from that. But at the same time, that should make me want to watch wrestling even more to escape. And they're just not giving me that. Come watch us. I
remember flipping out on my parents one time because they had a meeting at church or something. And I missed the first 10 minutes of Monday Night Raw. And I yelled at my parents. I gotta watch, I've got to start right when the show starts. The best stuff happens to start the show. I was yelling at my parents in junior high, because I missed
punching the dog.
Yeah, kicking him down the stairs. But now, it's if I miss the opening segment or whatever, I'll start on DVR, fast forward or whatever.
YouTube it. Yeah, I had a neighbor tape Raw for me one time because I was going to be out of town and wouldn't be able to watch it. So it was important back in middle high school for sure.
Yeah, and I think all of that just is because of the way that we consume the. I mean, for me,
but you're still excited to watch other things. I'm excited when Peaky Blinders comes to Netflix. I was excited for Game of Thrones until season 8. I used to be excited for The Walk. You're excited to watch these shows. People still watch television shows. And at the end of the day, this is an entertainment business. And 80% of the time, let's say Monday Night Raw doesn't make you want to watch or doesn't have you on the edge of your seat. There's no cliffhangers. It's just the show ends and it's like, all right, Seth Rollins versus Dominic for the 14th time next week. Like Dominic's running the 2K universe mode. Like, I just don't get it, because I still love watching TV and shows suck me in and you can't wait for next week. And I haven't felt that way about SmackDown's been a little different recently, but I haven't felt that way about Monday Night Raw, NXT, AEW for a long time.
For a while. And Tim, well, I'll jump to you then. I usually watch Raw live and I'll tweet with it, but like AEW, NXT, I'll catch one of them live or slight delay. But like SmackDown, I'll usually catch it over the weekend on Hulu because it's on there. It's like an hour and 10 minutes. Like, it's so easy. There's no commercials, any of that. So like, for me last week, I'd watched SmackDown as it aired and it got to like 9:45 and I was like, wow, this show's almost over. Like and I think that part of the reason why Raw isn't that I got to watch this is because of that 3-hour mark. Like,
yeah, but NXT and AEW are too, and it just doesn't.
They are, but I feel like that third hour, I really like.
Yeah.
If Raw was 2 hours, I feel like the need to compact things and hit that 2 hour mark the way AEW or NXT or SmackDown is, like, I think that would make everything they do feel a little bit more important. Like and not that certain matches aren't good or certain stories aren't good, but like you may not get a 3-segment banger between Bobby Lashley and Apollo Crews. I'm just throwing two names.
But like the storytelling aspect, right? Lucha Underground nailed that because they would make you want to watch the next week because they realized it was entertainment and it was a television show. I think where wrestling is going wrong right now is it's tiptoeing the line. Do they want to be sports or do they want to be entertainment? And they can't find a happy medium, because if you're sports and the sport's good, I watch the Eagles every week, no matter how bad they played the week before, because I'm excited, right? But you want to tiptoe that line, or do you want to be an entertainment industry where you have people on the edge of your seats? We're both 0-1, Jim. We're both 0-1. But you get what I'm saying? It's like they haven't had an identity, and I think that's causing like what's happening. It's like, do you want to be sports or do you want to be a television show?
I think you walk a really tight line with that. Like you had said about Dominic versus Seth Rollins for the 14th time. You have a story to tell. And I don't want to just see two wrestlers wrestle for the sake of it. But sometimes I just want to see two wrestlers wrestle for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Hangman Page and Frankie Kazarian.
That was
yesterday.
amazing.
It's not a great story there. Great
Yeah.
match. Might have been the best match of Dynamite last night, other than maybe Thunder Rosa. I'm just so hot on that right now. But you get the same thing over and over and over and over, and then you get the little nuances within those Raw stories. Rey Mysterio's daughter and Murphy, and their like quick little shared moment. Like, there's a lot going on there, but I'm sick of. If I don't see Dominic for a month on my TV, I'm fine with that.
Here's the
And it's
thing,
tough.
though.
Maybe
Don't
we're
you
still
think?
kind of at the end of COVID, and that's making it tough for their roster. But
Yeah, but sorry to cut you off though. But like, don't you think if they end it, even end the brand split, right? And people could go to different shows, right? But they focused on different characters. Like, you don't have to see Seth Rollins on Raw all the time. He can miss a Raw and he could still have a story going. Like on television, The Walking Dead, you knew Rick Grimes was the leader, but some episodes were about Bob. And it's like, okay, there's story progression. And and then you can like go back to it. And it's like, man, I really can't wait till we find out what happens with Seth. Like, it's just
right. I agree.
You could bounce back and forth and make people want to watch. Like, I want to see SmackDown because I want to see what Sasha has to say about the attack. I want to see where it leads. There's a story there, right? She was off for a couple weeks. She didn't get attacked and go, hey, I'm back. There was a slow burn.
Right. Right.
I still hope that
I
she's
think-
that she's at home and her address
hope so.
families from home. She
I
should
hope
not
so.
be at the Thunderdome this week.
I
But
think the Alexa Bliss story is great over there with her Fiend. With the Fiend, we don't see it every week. It's in a tag match. We start seeing it a little. I mean, I think they're
That's
doing
beautiful,
things
yeah.
so right on SmackDown that they could definitely take a page out of that and do it on Raw.
But I do think that 3 hours versus 2 hours. If Raw went to 2 hours, I think that not necessarily that it would be must see TV every week, because I don't think that would be the case. But I do think that some of the fatigue that we get wouldn't be as prominent, because you can't put everything on every week if it's only 2 hours. Tim.
A lot of great points made from everyone on the panel. And I think one of the big points is what Ant said, is like they're having a hard time differentiating between showcasing wrestling as sport and wrestling as entertainment. And unfortunately, it has to do both. It can't just do one or the other, which can make telling a story over a 2 to 3 hour period quite complicated. Raw doesn't do it so well. SmackDown does it very well. Is that because Fox is very hands-on with the SmackDown product and exactly what they want? And they want a entertainment show, and why Raw just got to re-up and it's like, okay, same old stuff as always. Crash television, doesn't matter, just whatever. Just put it on there because you're the staple of the USA Network, and
USA's
you've been
Monday,
you're the highest
good. Silk Stockings after. Gotcha.
highest rated show on USA every year for the last infinity years. It's tough to do, and like if it were easy, like they would have something. But unfortunately,
they've done it before. That's why we're confused as wrestling fans. They've done the Attitude Era, horrible wrestling, right? And but you could still tell these great stories and just have better matches, and then you could combine the two.
Right, but that was back. There was a brand split, but also like, and I hate to give Vince Russo his credit, but what made Vince Russo so great was the fact that he gave something to everyone.
Well, that's
Everyone.
Can you believe that TV writers are writing this show? Because like they actually they're not wrestling fans, most of them. They're television writers, right?
Right.
And so they're trying the entertainment thing, but they just aren't hiring the right people, I guess.
Right.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
There's
and again, like it boils down, and it's said all the time, and it's almost to the point where it's just like beating a dead horse, but like everything filters through one filter, Vince McMahon. And no matter how great somebody writes something, or how something could be presented, if Vince has a stick in his craw and he just doesn't like it, ain't happening. And
does
so
it involve farts?
You
Like,
get
like,
the
yeah,
same.
Vince.
You end up getting the same old. And like when Russo was in control, Russo was writing the stuff because Vince was like, we need a new attitude. And and Vince Russo is writing Crash Television, and everybody who's on television has a storyline that carries over to SmackDown and then comes back to Raw. Like, that was great. And I think when Heyman was running Raw, we kind of got some of that. And
I agree.
Yeah.
And it's like he
was trying, at least.
And they got away from that.
Why does it seem to work so well in things like NXT then, where you can have gimmicky things like Fandango, and you can have the foreigner bad guys in Imperium and the cool bad guys in like Undisputed Era? It works so well, and they're not flipping the script or doing anything different that's not already been done in the WWE for years.
Let's take the Ciampa Gargano feud for instance. Ciampa was an amazing heel. And it's the same story that we've seen for 30 years in wrestling. Tag team partner turns, but it's what they let Ciampa do. It wasn't having him there every week. It was presenting him differently. It wasn't hey, and I love the Hurt Business. I think it's the best part of Raw, but it's like, you get 6 segments. And it's like, why are they getting 6 segments? And I love them, but Mustafa Ali's not getting any. And like, you have other people that people are interested in that you could put on. And NXT does that perfectly because they won't have Adam Cole on one week. And it makes you want to watch because Adam Cole's on next week.
Yeah, it's like Charlie said in the comments. He said last week he had skipped Raw, watched Cobra Kai, didn't miss a thing. He said he was totally fine with it. And he said he doesn't have, NXT doesn't have Cole or Rhea on some weeks, so it's a little more special when they're on. But again, like but then when you get, and I get it's one extreme to another, but when you have a part-time champion in Brock Lesnar, then everybody's mad because the belt's not on, it's being disrespected. So I think there's a degree of middle ground that kind of needs to be found of, like, we don't need to see this match every week for 7 straight weeks. But we also don't need somebody missing for like 2.5 months. Like there needs to be some form of balance, and they have the roster to do it. And I get that right now during, in these trying times, if you have to, and we've talked about it. Like if you want to unify the tag titles, if you want to unify the Intercontinental and US title, if you want to unify the women's titles, just because you're like, look, here's the deal. We got some people that aren't going to be on TV because the world's a bag of shit right now. So we're just going to kind of do away with this until we can all go back and play nicely again, back in the real world. Like, just, steer into the skid as opposed to like, because I think and I love the Street Profits and Viking Raiders, like all those, the golf course and all of that, like the mini golf thing and stuff that they were doing. But like, then there came a point where it's like, oh, I'm watching Street Profits versus Andrade and Angel Garza for, this is 2.5 months now. And they were good every time they went out and did it because they're great at what they do. But like, there's got to be another tag team in there. There has to be. Like, give me one other tag team.
Yeah,
please.
but the problem is the stories aren't being told in the ring like they used to be. Yeah. Not even like they used to be, because New Japan does a great, like, Okada Omega just felt huge every time because we knew the story that Kenny couldn't beat Okada, and then Okada was trying to not get hit with the one-wing angel because nobody's ever kicked out of that. So there was a story that they told in the ring that made you excited. I just don't think that WWE is telling stories in the ring. If, again, I loved Rollins versus Mysterio this week. I thought it was excellent in the steel cage. I think they haven't had a bad match yet, but it's the repetitiveness. And there's there's a side story being told with Buddy and Seth, but like, now you're just using Dominic to get there. And it's like, can't Seth do this with someone else? Because it's been Seth versus Mysterio for 5 months now.
Right.
The main problem with it, and why we see success in shows like NXT, AEW, is because of the saturation of the roster. Like, they have so many people on Raw, on SmackDown. Like, did they have this many people in the Attitude Era? They might have, but it doesn't feel like it to me, like thinking back to those storylines. And so it's just like they feel like they have to just keep going to this well. But then, we should include these people. So here they are, just one random episode with no rhyme or reason to it, just because they keep seeing these people succeed in different companies. And they're like, hey, and this is being the problem of Vince. Like, I want that guy, bring him to WWE. We'll find a way to fit him in.
EC3 is the perfect example. EC3 is the perfect example. They had him look in a mirror. The best promo guy at the time, they had just staring in the mirror, not talking.
And so that's why I feel like NXT and AEW can do these things, because they don't have such a big roster. They can, pick and choose where they want these storylines to go. And if someone misses a week, well, hey, they miss a week, but we have these other people that we want to focus on this week. Mm-hmm. Whereas WWE has all these people, and they're just like, we'll get to you, but we want to see Seth versus Dominic again, because that's really, like, we've got something with this, even though they don't some weeks.
Tim,
and tying it back to like the conversation piece of like the comparison and the contrasting of like the Monday Night War versus the Wednesday Night Wars and like the current eras, WWE right now is paying for all of the reward that they reaped from ending the Monday Night War. For so long, WWE was the only game in town. So they had a monopoly on all of the talent. And when you have all of the talent, you can't make all of the talent be in the spot that they were. Like, even back when WCW had just closed, like, Booker T was a main event guy in WCW, and then, like, they made him a main event guy for the beginning of the invasion, and then down in a tag team with Goldust. And, like, hovering in that mid-card Intercontinental title, United States title, until the end of his tenure in WWE as World Heavyweight Champion and King Booker.
Right.
So it's like, now, because there is competition on Wednesday nights that is appealing to a subset of the WWE roster, you're gonna maybe see a better product, maybe not now, but maybe in 18 months. Because a lot of these contracts, we may talk about it in the Rumor Roundup, but a lot of contracts are going to be coming up. And people are going to have to make legit decisions, like the Revival did. Like Brody Lee did. Sure. Where they look and they go, maybe not WWE, maybe AEW, or maybe Impact, or New Japan once COVID clears out. Like, there's more opportunity now, because for the longest time it was WWE and it was practically nothing else. Like, you had Ring of Honor with 1,000 people a show.
Yeah, and then you had TNA who weren't paying their guys, so it's like,
right? They were on TV, and the optics of it was, oh, they're on television, they're great, and it's like, no, they're not.
They haven't paid anyone in 2 months.
Right, but like now they're about as healthy as ever.
Yeah, and now they have the backing and they have money, and that's the thing, and that's going to create something great. Is, wrestlers now have somewhere to go, and I don't see it as a war, because I'm entertained by everything. So the more wrestling, the better, as long as it's good wrestling. Right. And even AEW has the problem with the storytelling. I think it's very hard to tell a story on television, but yet when you go watch Being the Elite, the stories are great, they're hilarious, and they make sense, and there's foreshadowing. They just need to find a way to transfer that to the actual product.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest issues with them is, and there's nothing wrong with having, things on the side that tell some of their stories, but you have to, and I think I said it with one of their, like, specialty matches, like, it's either them or Impact, but they didn't explain, like, what the rules of the match was. And I was like, look, you have to assume that there's at least a section of the audience that's watching on this particular night that has never watched your program before. Tell me why I'm invested in this. Like, WWE, they overdo it. I'm not going to deny that. Like, if they're going to give you a, this gauntlet eliminator match, they're going to tell you multiple times what the rules of this match are. Or if there's a new type of match, there's a new this, they're going to beat to death the name of the match and what that match entails. But you're not going to watch that show and not know what's going on. Whereas, like, that may happen somewhere else. Like, like they may drop, like, a big spot in a promo on Wednesday night where like, if you haven't watched Being the Elite this week or last week, you're going to go, I missed something here. And, like, they do need to find a little bit better way. Like, yeah, I thought last night was a really, really good episode. Like, the main event, like, those guys went for it. For me, like, that was kind of like a non-preferred, like, I don't need to, like, and it's not like, I'm not comparing it to, like, CZW Tournament of Death or anything like that, but, like, I don't need to see guys getting, like, just popped unprotected in the head. Like, it's 2020. I don't need to see unprotected headshots. Like, if mistakes happen, but I'm not going to take away that was probably, like, the best, like, parking lot match, brawl, whatever.
That's what they did so great. Is Santana and Ortiz is this tag team that comes over from Impact, where they're main eventing pay-per-views. They're in the inner circle. They haven't really done much. They start a feud, and now the spotlight's on them because they're main eventing the show. It's not
Sure.
the same people main eventing. And I think that draws interest from wrestling fans.
And can you tell me what
cycle back.
Yeah, before you get to that point, you talk about storytelling and how to tell a story. That entire feud is based on Trent's mom's van.
Right, right, and like
that's it.
Like the climax moment was Trent's mom giving the middle finger out the fucking
Hitting the
window.
Undertaker.
Right, like how, like that's good. That, like, the fact she started driving away, stops, and just bing, like, that's good. That's good stuff. Like, whether the match was like my favorite thing in the entire world, like style wise, it wasn't, but like that's a cool way to go off the show. Some lady in a minivan flipping the bird. Ryan, what were you saying?
Man, Sue is over. I think, as the kids say, AF. No, I just want to cycle back to something that Tim said about 18 months and contracts running out. I think at the other end of that, we're going to see the pipeline starting to dry out for the WWE to tap into things like GCW and other of the larger indies, because we're getting out of the COVID sort of not working era, and you're seeing Ring of Honor running. We're seeing the Pure tournament running, grabbing people like Tony Deppen and Wheeler Yuta, some really good indie names. You can't forget about MLW. They're signing folks to contracts.
Jacob
like you said,
Fatu is a huge star.
Huge star. The guy is huge.
Love that
Alex
guy.
Hammerstone, or what? Hammerstone, I think, is a huge star. I mean, look, MJF kind of came from that world. So, the WWE is not going to just have the pick of the litter anymore, because there's stops along the way where folks are going to start making names for themselves. And in MLW captures lightning in a bottle and just creates the right star for the right time. We're going to be talking about them as a real big player here shortly, I believe.
And you got to keep the eye on the partnership with Impact with them. Impact has a TV deal. You can see Jacob Fatu go on there. You can see the Good Brothers go to MLW to draw people into their live shows. So that's something you want to keep a close eye on once COVID's over, is that partnership that was kind of coming off the ground before the world shut down, because I think that's going to be huge for professional wrestling, especially the independent scene that desperately needs talent to go down. Like, you can go watch Deonna Purrazzo and Jordan wrestle at an MLW show, and that'd be awesome.
Right. And again, I think the same thing you can look at. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I'm speculating or hoping, but NWA, AEW, the Thunder Rosa tie-overs, things like that. Like, these are things that I want to see because it benefits pro wrestling.
Isn't Marty like part booker in NWA too now too? It, like, he's allowed to wrestle at NWA and Ring of Honor, right?
I believe that was right before everything kind of happened.
Yeah, because like, there's your connection, there's your bridge. Also, Nick Aldis and Cody have a great relationship.
If the NWA is smart, because like they're not really doing anything in the COVID era, they have to get their talent out there so that, like, first off, they stay ring ready for whenever the world resumes again, but also so that, like, because I liked what they were doing with like the weekly NWA shows, but then the world stopped, and then so did they. So, if you have a unique opportunity right now where if you can get Thunder Rosa and some of your talent on AEW and some of your talent with, wherever, once they can resume again, because they are coming back. And Charlie said, don't forget NWA is starting back. Absolutely. They will be.
They did something with Mike Bennett, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right,
like they're doing the Aldis Bennett match at I forget what the show is, but that's this weekend, I think, or it's coming up. I'm not sure.
Yeah, sometime real soon.
Yeah, I'm not sure when that match is, but like it's smart on them to get their talent names out there so that when whatever their YouTube show is going to be called when the world resumes, that people know who they are, and it'll give more attention to them coming back. So yeah, like, that's a great point, guys, is that, WWE can't just assume. Now, there will always be people that their ultimate goal is to get to the WWE. Like, it just,
I think that's everyone's end game, is to wrestle at WrestleMania, right? It doesn't matter. But once you do it, if you're not happy, like, you how much money do you think they threw at Moxley? And he was just like, nah, man, because he's a Shield member. Like, your whole company is based around these three guys. one leaves. Now you can't do anything with the Shield. It's like,
right. Then you're going,
yeah. So they threw stupid money at him. And he's someone who said, I don't care about the money. I want to go have fun wrestling. And I think you want to get to WrestleMania, obviously. Anyone who wrestles wants WrestleMania. But after that, it's how do they keep you, or how do they?
Sure.
And that's a big thing, you know? And I think they have the money to throw at people, but I think WWE, we see them start being smarter with their money and investing in the talents that they want to keep rather than just pulling everyone from the indies.
It depends. It depends on when Vince starts to feel threatened. Because right now, Vince is probably looking at AEW or all these other companies as like venture capital. Like, they're unproven in his eyes, and like, hey,
well, I think you need another big name to shift. I think you need another main event talent needs to, and AJ Styles would have been that guy where Vince goes, oh shit.
Right. Or it's enough of the upper mid card guys who go and become stars, who elevate themselves up to that next level, like what Brody Lee's doing, like what the FTR may do, like all of those talents. If Vince feels threatened, he'll get serious. He'll make it a war again.
And I know we'll be good again, probably.
But would it though? Like, I think the time of war and competition is done. And that's where I think Triple H has the right mindset of like, play ball together. Like,
yeah, but at the end of the day, competition makes everyone a little bit better, is what I think. Like, I'm friends with a lot of podcasts, but I'll listen to their show and I go, shit, they are doing that better in this part than I am. I need to step my game up. Right. And it's not a direct shot. They can still get along, but competition breeds like a great product, because you're going to pick things and you're going to go, oh shit, they're killing me at that market. I got to step this up. Instead of just thinking, and then, you know, Vince, in his mind, he's still the only wrestling company in the world. Like,
well, he doesn't do wrestling.
Yeah, he does entertainment.
Yeah.
But he does it. He does it, and numbers don't lie. No one's even close to him still. Yeah. But if a big name, another big name, and you're right, maybe guys like Sami Zayn or Cesaro and Nakamura go over there. Okay. But like, I'm saying a huge name, like, imagine, and it's not going to happen, but imagine if Brock Lesnar showed up. Imagine if Orton would have signed. Imagine if AJ Styles. Then Vince has to take it serious.
Oh, yeah.
Because not only did you take Chris Jericho, Moxley, now you're taking another top guy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if a legit top guy shows up on Dynamite, then I think things start to change too, because and we've always said, you know, on this show that and other people have said it too, like Vince McMahon or the McMahons will give every last breath of their being to try and get the WWE to be number one. Like, that is their life. Whereas, you know, like, and this is not a disrespect to Tony Khan or the Bucks or Kenny or Cody, but like, especially with the Khans, because that's the money. That's their meal ticket. The Khans are business people. If 18 months from now, AEW isn't getting over 1 million, or when that TV contract runs up and TNT is like, you know, this hasn't been as great for us as we thought it was going to be.
What if Omega goes to WWE? Like,
right. And Charlie said, what if Omega or MJF would come over?
Well, yeah. What if they get sick of it and they, you know, what if Moxley says, you know what? I want to go make more money again and get the Shield back. So there is two sides of the coin. But right now, AEW is so new and everyone seems so happy. It seems like a utopia. Give them another year to fuck more stuff up, and then you'll see that transition.
Look at All Out, and we talked about that a little bit last week. Like, All Out was a dumpster fight. Now they came back with 2 great weeks of TV. Like, they took a shitty situation and they made you forget about it pretty quick. But yeah, like, it was the first time that I really saw Twitter react poorly to an AEW product.
It was
it was bad.
I
So,
laughed the whole time, and it wasn't like good laughs. It was just like, this is that bad.
It doesn't hurt,
Yeah, like, I spent $60 on this, and I'm laughing at it.
Yeah, I'm thankful that I split that with people, because if I would have spent the full cost on that, I would have been real pissed. But yeah, it's like the cons would, if the TV deal doesn't work out, or if AEW isn't really making money at some point, like the cons are going to go, you know what, this isn't smart for us business wise, and they're going to cut that cord. And then what happens to AEW? It's no disrespect necessarily to what Cody and the Bucks and Kenny are doing, but it's two very different scenarios, because you have wrestling people versus business people, that are running the companies.
I think Tony Khan's having a lot of fun, and I think
he should be right now.
Even if ratings are down a little bit, if Tony Khan's still having a good time, Tony Khan has the money to play.
Yes, but there could, and I'm not saying there will, and again, for the sake of the wrestling business, I hope that this doesn't happen. But there could be a point where, from a business standpoint, it's no longer worth it to continue, whether you're having fun or not. There's a financial aspect to it that could no longer make it work.
But they're worth more than Vince. So like
they are.
So if he wants to take a couple million, $500 million a year, because they're still making money hand over fist, they own a soccer club and a football team, so the profit's always going to be there.
But the reason why, generally speaking, the reason why the rich stay rich / get richer is because when they know when to stop losing money, or like they know when to cut off something that isn't good for them financially. So again, whether that happens with AEW, I have no idea. But
they signed a 3-year contract. Most of their guys are signed a 3-year contract. Let's see, like I said, you got to give it a year. And like, has it been a calendar year? Yeah, it's been a calendar year now, right?
October, middle of October is their
anniversary. Most businesses that start up, the first year is a wash. You're going to lose money. That's what happens when you start a business. The second and third year is when you have to start turning a profit. And that's going to tell a lot about the company. They're now in year 2. Are they going to turn a profit? Are they going to get more viewers? Are they going to sign more talent to put more butts in the seats when COVID's over? That's what matters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be a big thing for everybody.
Yeah, especially year 3, because I think what's going to end up happening is, if you're looking at the numbers, the books are going to kind of be cooked, because your projected year 1 is lower because of what COVID is, which means that your year 2 projection, you're going to change that and lower it, because you don't know how long it's going to last. And if we kick out earlier, then we're back to normal and you're exceeding what your projected revenue for the year 2 would be. So
it's like how we forecast the budget at my job, right? So like, obviously this year no one's hitting budget. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
But it's like, next year, is this going to go into next year? Because if it's going to go into next year, you're not going to give us a really high budget to hit, because who's going to hit a 38% budget?
Right.
But if you get back to normal, then you can set those standards, because, okay, you were $600,000 down. This is how you can make it up, because life's back to normal.
Right.
So a lot has to do what happens in these next 2 to 3 months.
Sure.
For anything to matter in wrestling in 2021.
Salary caps in sports too.
Yeah.
I mean, like in hockey, the Eastern Conference Finals about to wrap up. This season's about to go into their final playoff series. But then you start looking ahead to next year. Like I know from like my Capitals, like they're letting Braden Holtby, who is their Stanley Cup winning goalie, test the free agent market. Like Alex Ovechkin is going into the final year of his contract, but salary caps are going to come down definitely next year, but then potentially the following year, because if you don't get fans back in the arenas until let's hypothetically even say halfway through next season, you have an 82 game season, they can get back in at the halfway point. So that still means that, even if 100% capacity, your ownership groups are losing 50% of what they would be hopeful in a season.
And you got to think, not even the fans too, the vendors is where a lot of these places make their money. all the vendors have to rent their spaces. Well, guess who's not paying rent right now? It's just
yeah. So it's looking down the barrel a couple of years is going to be very interesting. But yeah, I mean, the scope of the industry is just so very different between what the Monday night, and that's where everybody's trying to compare like ratings and wars, and it's not even close to the same thing as it was back in the day. Jumping to a few of the things, and we kind of touched on each of these a little bit, that the WWE is kind of doing well, and one of them we have seen slowly developing over the last 4 or 5 weeks is this turn of Alexa Bliss and her relationship with the Fiend, and what exactly is happening in her relationship with Nikki Cross and things like that. So I know this past Friday on SmackDown, we see a tag team match, and then Alexa Bliss kind of just gets like this weird look to her face and hits Nikki Cross with the Sister Abigail. And then during the break is just staring into space, looking up at something, and she walks out. So, and I know that there was a new character unveiled on the Firefly Funhouse. I think a lot of people kind of expected maybe that to be Alexa Bliss. It was not. It's a Paul the what is it? Something walrus.
Wobbly walrus or something.
Wobbly walrus. So good, by the way. But like I'm so invested on exactly what is happening with Alexa Bliss. She's one of my favorite women in the entire company, and what they've been doing between the Talking Smack appearance, the backstage stuff with Nikki Cross, and just like each week she has a few more dreads in her ponytails and like it's these subtle details. You have Ramblin' Rabbit hanging out in the back behind wherever she is in these backstage segments, like these little details. Like I have no clue where it's going exactly, and I love every bit of it. Tim.
So like, let's think like end of the line. What if she like gets her own Fiend, and like that Bratz doll that we've seen on all of her stuff is her mask?
Love it.
Like
that would be dope. Yeah.
Like that's just a thought. Like, I don't know where they're going with it. I'm ready for it.
Well, I know you're ready for it.
It's
the Fiend's face.
It's different now because she's doing it by herself. When she was doing it with Bray, it was different. It just hit.
I didn't like the Beauty and the Beast like love story that they like. No, just let the Fiend possess her and be the monster that he is. That's all.
Or is she controlling the Fiend? Like
that's what Issa brought up on our episode a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I didn't even think about that. Like, is she like Sister Abigail is like an imaginary person, right? Or Bray and drag, whatever we're gonna say. But
let's just forget about that.
What if she is actually the one who now is controlling his mind?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways that this story could go, that it's one of the few times in the last, I don't know, months, years that I've truly had no clue. I think where they're going with it, but I'm invested in where it's going. Mark, what do you think? What's your take and thought on what they're doing with Alexa right now?
I'll tell you what, I think it's probably the best storyline they have going right now on any of the shows. And it's doing exactly what it's designed to do. At least for me, it gets me to tune into SmackDown because that is the one piece each week I do watch. I'm going to make sure I catch that on SmackDown. But they're telling a great story with it. I'm really anxious to see where it goes. But yeah, very, very well done so far.
Matt, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the best storyline that they have going right now. It's something that we all kind of wanted when it was first kind of teased during that match between the Fiend and Braun. And I think we were all like, are they going to do this? Will WWE do something like right? Who knows? And here they are, kind of doing things right. Look at them, growth, maturity. Maybe Shane's running things. That's probably the only.
You know, you might be right, man. You might be right.
Main event.
Ryan, your take here.
I am just such a Fiend fan. It doesn't have to be Alexa Bliss. I know Mark had said like it hinted like Alexa Bliss was the reason that he. I'm not saying it could be like Tamina, but I think the apple of Bray Wyatt's eye is an intriguing storyline, and I am excited to see where it ends up.
Yeah, like it's and I don't need it to pay off really anytime soon. Like I think that's been the beauty of this is that you'll see Alexa kind of go back to normal one week, and then she freaks out and throws the coffee mug on the ground. You don't see anything the following week, and then she hits the Sister Abigail, and you're always constantly kind of looming out there. And I know, you know, at Night of Champions next week, you know, Nikki Cross faces Bayley for the SmackDown Women's title. Like, is Alexa going to, you know, cost Nikki that match? Like, is that going to kind of play into what happens there? Like, there's so many different ways that it can happen. And again, and I think that's kind of been the beauty of the Fiend as well, is you don't see the Fiend every single week either. So like you may get the Firefly Funhouse and you look forward to that 3-minute segment, but like every so often when you see the Fiend creep up and he breaks into that video or the lights go out and let me in, like that feels special as well. So like whatever they're doing with this, I just hope they keep kind of going with that same tempo. Like you don't have to force feed us. You don't have to hurry it up. Like let this thing breathe. And then the other thing that I think they've been doing well on Raw, like, you know, we touched on how they don't necessarily do a lot of things right on Raw necessarily, but the Hurt Business and
Awesome.
particularly, you know, and I've said this for months, pretty much in the whole entire COVID era, is they have gotten me to like be a Bobby Lashley fan in the year 2020. At the start of this year, I would have never imagined I would have said that, because I just have not been a Bobby Lashley fan. It was the way that he was presented. It was just, okay, it's Bobby Lashley. Like, cool, he's an Impact guy, whatever. He's an Impact Bellator guy, whatever. But the minute that you started working MVP in the mix and you got him involved with Bobby Lashley, and then he started like Shelton Benjamin, like people were begging when Shelton Benjamin came back to the WWE to, you know, make him relevant again. He is. And now Cedric into the mix, and like the Hurt Business. And now, you know, for weeks people have had mixed opinions on Retribution, whether it was good, whether it was hokey, whether it was dumb. What the fuck are they doing? The last 2 weeks when the Hurt Business and Retribution have kind of been looking like they're going to, you know, two sides come to a head at some point. The last 2 weeks, I think what they've done with Retribution and the Hurt Business, like I'm loving every second of that, because like I feel like, you know, now you have the Hurt Business is defending Raw, and I love that backstage segment when Adam Pearce is like, thanks for volunteering, and MVP is like, this is gonna cost you, but you know, we're doing this is business. Like I fucking loved it. It was so good. I don't know who wants to go next.
Yeah, I love that they've incorporated Cedric Alexander and put some young blood in otherwise an aging stable in Bob Lashley and MVP. And I think it's great how in 2020 that these guys are, you know, main eventing multi-segment matches and segments throughout Raw. I love the fact that they kind of put their heel status aside and a common enemy in Retribution. I will come out and save my brand. This is our brand. It's our business, and business is good. So I like what they did with that. I know some people were bitching about it feels odd to cheer for heels and this and that, but I feel like it's the right thing to do for the brand. You stick up for your brand first and foremost. We see it at Survivor Series every year. So nothing wrong with heels dabbling in good. I thought heels and faces were done in 2020 anyway.
That's true. Anyone who wants to go next?
Yeah, if you were to tell me that one of the MVPs of 2020 would be MVP, you wouldn't have put that on your bingo card. Like, single-handedly, he's reinvigorated Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, who has been lost since he came back.
Right.
And now he's got Cedric, young Sid, gonna do some stuff with him. Like, I love the Hurt Business. I've always loved it. I've loved all these guys.
Yep.
That's just me. I'm new. I'm not new to the party. The bandwagon is wide open. There's plenty of room. If you want to jump on, there's plenty of room for you in the Hurt Business. Go buy. If you really support the Hurt Business, buy the shirt. That's it. Like, that WWE listens to merch. So
unless you're Rusev.
But even then, like, he got pushes. Like, his pushes
yeah.
was elongated because of it. Like, a throwaway thing that became something. But like either way, like, buy the merch, support them, because it's really great. Like, because they're not the Nation of Domination, but they're the Nation of Domination, and especially in these times, like, a all black stable showing like dominance.
Yeah,
really
like,
good.
Because I've seen like the numerous, obviously, like the New Nation. I've seen like the New Evolution, because they're all coming out, and like, can we like not have to like? And I get, like, we always try to tie like, oh, this tag team's this or this faction's that, but like, can we just let them be the Hurt Business? Like,
Yeah.
Like, for one of the biggest complaints, and in a lot of cases, I think people have a legit gripe when they talk about how the WWE doesn't do anything new. Like, this is something that is actually different, is actually fresh. It's not just the Nation of Domination. It's not just Evolution. It's not just this. It's something different. So let it be that. Let the Hurt Business be the Hurt Business.
And I like that they're like getting people like Cedric. And I hope more people are like, hey, I want to make money. I'm in this business to make money, because that's what the Hurt Business is about. And I think the more people you see, and maybe they add a female to the group, and maybe Mustafa Ali snaps, and he like, just, it doesn't matter who you are you in the business to make money? And that's what I get from the Hurt Business. And I love that there's that showdown, because people forget too, again, wrestling recycles. When the NWO came to WCW, everybody was fighting the NWO. And I think that's what they're trying to do with Retribution. Now, I will be the first to say, if anyone listens to my show, I think it's hokey as shit. I think they totally bobbled and fumbled the first 2 or 3 weeks of Retribution. I think they're bouncing back a little bit, but I think that spark has kind of went out for me. But I'll tell you, when I saw those big dumb idiots standing there, and then the Hurt Business start taking off their suits, I'm like, now they're going to get their ass whooped. And I want to see that. And I want to see the Hurt Business give them an ass kicking. And I was hyped for it. I think it was a great ending to Raw. And we could talk about how, I mentioned earlier how that AEW had a different ending to their show. And I feel like the Hurt Business ending Raw was best for business, because now I want to see what they do next week. That is the most intriguing storyline, and only one with continuity that they have going on right now.
Yeah, and that's where I also think too, and I agree with you that the first introduction of Retribution, you're like, okay, this is different, and then for a couple of weeks it's kind of like,
well, like
why did they throw
a brick through a window that was broken,
and then they walked away? Like, did you not want to go in there?
But it was more like the way they were cheering, and I'm like, that's not serious. Like
if I'm going to throw something through a glass door and window, it probably means I want to go into wherever I'm breaking. Like, why am I breaking the glass if I don't want to go in there?
If you want to blow something up, why don't you have one of your top good guys? Drew McIntyre gets out of the car and he's walking, and all of a sudden the car blows up behind him.
Right.
Then you're like, why did that just happen?
Why did they blow up Drew's car?
But instead, they're just blowing up an electric plant that's outside. I've never seen a rig like that. It's just sitting in a parking lot once in a while. And I've been to a lot of wrestling shows Never seen a rig just sitting there out back.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't have that explosion just because they didn't want to concern the president of the United States. With regards to everything going on, still, it's me, it's Matt, cautious optimism. Let's see where they go with this. You know, just a reminder that there was another group that started out that, you know, people were calling the New Nation, and it wasn't very well perceived. And then that group had to kind of make their own way and pave their own way. And hey guys. So let's just see where we go with this. I do like where they are going with it. You know, I hated everything about what Bobby Lashley was doing in WWE since the return. I'm kind of on board now, so cautious optimism.
I think one of the keys to, at least to Retribution, is whenever they are unveiled, and obviously we know that Dijak is part of it, Mia Yim's part of it, Mercedes Martinez is part of it. Like, there's a few that, because of like the wide openness of some of the masks, where I'm just like, you couldn't do a better job covering up faces. Like, Dijak was going to stand out either way, but like by the time we get to you know, that we find out who they are, I think a big key to the success or failure of Retribution is going to be who's in charge,
who's behind this.
Like,
yeah,
right, who's behind it. And I'll give a shout out to our guys over at the New Age Insiders, who are dabbling back into the wrestling podcast world a bit. Like, they brought up a great point that, like, Wade Barrett just kind of reappeared into the world. Like, he was gone for a while, and like now he's back on NXT. Like, could potentially like Wade Barrett be like the guy who let them in the door and gets these guys into these buildings that for no other, like, that, you know, because they have security. We're shown security on every WWE show now. So like, is Barrett kind of, now that he's back in the mix, part? I don't know. Like, and he has the Nexus tie and everything, but I think the important key is going to be who's behind Retribution when we find out who it is. Like, real quick, go around the room. Is there, like, who to you would be the best person to be behind Retribution to make it feel important when we find out, Tim?
No one.
Huh.
Make the whole greater than the sum of its parts. Make it be just an uprising. The great thing about the Shield was there was no leader. It was just the Shield.
There's supposed to be too, but that's when you're too good that you don't need a leader.
Right. So make it be all of them. Like, it is Retribution. No leader, no voice box. They speak for themselves. They do it their own. Like, that's it.
Very good. Ryan, how about you?
I think it's a great call. I originally was going to say Lars Sullivan. No, Tim, I think to your point, you can look at something like Sanity and then see like Eric Young was their leader, and the WWE crowd not buying into Eric Young leading a faction like that. So I think you're absolutely right. We are Sanity, and we stand together, and everybody has an equal voice. I love that.
Matt, how about you?
Someone who just kind of made some waves in the wrestling world, and that would be CM Punk.
Mark, how about you?
Same thing as Matt. CM Punk, that would be that'd be perfect. Even though the Wade Barrett thing, I can see that probably happening more so than CM Punk, but I'll stick with Punk.
Ant?
I'm going to tie everything together from the Hacker, because the Hacker was showing your truth. There's been a lot of glitches and stuff like that. He was sitting behind a board, and whose symbol was it? And whose Twitter has gotten a little dark, saying he's on Main Event again because he's not on Raw. And I keep saying his name, but I think he is going to be a top star, and that's Mustafa Ali.
I'd like that. I think it'd be interesting to go, you know, a up and coming star route with it, but I'll
because
go Phil from Chicago.
It's Retribution for everything that he's been through, and
yeah,
you know, he literally subtweets him every time, right?
Sure does.
And then on Main Event, he kind of worked a little heelish, and it just seems like it would fit with the whole hacking and
Right, because we all kind of assumed that he was the hacker. Like,
yeah, oh yeah, he was. I mean, the symbol was his.
yeah, it
hand.
was right there.
Like
it was. They were literally telling us.
It was in the palm of your hands.
Might be the
Literally.
anonymous Raw GM. We never know.
Yeah, it's Hornswoggle.
All right, we'll move real quick here to the news and rumors, and then we'll get out of here. But earlier this week, it was reported, in addition to WrestleMania being held at SoFi Stadium, Friday Night SmackDown, NXT TakeOver, Monday Night Raw during WrestleMania week scheduled to take place at the Staples Center, while Access and the Hall of Fame ceremony would be at the Los Angeles Convention Center. Potential scheduling conflict. Music group Grupo Firme announced in August they'll be playing the Staples Center that week. The Staples Center website is selling tickets for their shows Friday, March 26th and Saturday, March 27th, which would conflict with SmackDown and TakeOver. WWE yet to announce any changes to WrestleMania schedule. No update to Wrestling Inc. or any other sites has been released. WrestleMania, of course, scheduled to take place in Inglewood on March 28th, 2021.
What's that group's name?
Grupo Fruitcake.
The way I said it was Grupo Firme. I probably
Who's that?
I
Are they
have
popular?
no freaking clue.
Are they Ed Sheeran or Taylor Swift? Because if it's not them, then WWE is just gonna get the hell out of the way. Like,
right, they're gonna pay somebody
if you're not a top pop star, you're moving over.
Yeah, and I think that the thing to this is something we kind of touched on a couple of times during the show, is the next couple of months is going to dictate a lot of these things anyway, because if the pandemic situation doesn't get a lot better by the end of 2020, California is probably not going to have people with crowds anyway. So WWE has to be, and is reportedly already looking for a plan B to WrestleMania, which for me, do the Tampa that never got to be anyway. Like, you ended up having to go in the Performance Center, whether or not you can have 20%, 50%, whatever capacity at Raymond James Stadium. Just, call a mulligan and do what you didn't get to do this year.
When is the new Clippers stadium supposed to be ready?
I have no idea.
Is that like
they don't deserve one? They just blew a 3-1 lead.
Next year, it's the
2022, I believe.
Okay, all right. So then,
do Tampa this year and go back to LA in 2022.
Just do it on the East Coast. Do it in Philly, or just do it in the East.
Always in Philly.
Or always in New Orleans. Just go to New Orleans. We'll all go. Just go to New Orleans.
Grupo Firme has 2.66 million subscribers on YouTube. For what it's worth, the WWE has 66 million. Grupo Firme is not playing. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, you could be our flow rider this year at WrestleMania. Play a song.
Yeah,
Taylor Swift. T Swift only has 39 million, so WWE far outbeating Taylor Swift on YouTube.
Move Grupo Firma to the forum and get WWE in Staples Center. All right. Speaking of the Thunderdome and crowds and things like that, the Amway Center contract for the Thunderdome expires at the end of October. WWE is reportedly looking at some outdoor venues in the southern part of the country to potentially have Raw and SmackDown each week at outdoor stadiums with limited crowds. What are your guys' thoughts on this? For me, I've enjoyed the Thunderdome, obviously, in comparison to the PC the PC Center. I've gotten into the Thunderdome a few times. The experience is pretty cool. If you can kind of see where you are on the TV spot, but maybe if you can kind of do some mix of the two, because I get it. Like, WWE, just like every company in the world, wants to get back to some form of normalcy and making money on tickets and all of that. So like that's why they're looking at this. The Thunderdome's been successful for what it is, but they're spending money and not making money. So if they're going to spend money and go into venues, they want to be getting something back from some form of ticket revenue. I think outdoor venues for Raw or SmackDown could be kind of cool. I mean, it would obviously be a different look, even if you can only do it for pay-per-views, like maybe do it, the Thunderdome for Raw and SmackDown, and do your monthly pay-per-views in an outdoor venue and sell some tickets. Find some meshing, because I think fans, for the most part, when you don't have the knuckleheads that do some of the stupid crap we've seen in the Thunderdome, but I think most people have received it pretty well.
You can have a lot of fun. Go to the beach, bash at the beach, like go to the beach, go, just go to random places. Like, you know what I mean? Like what else could be cool to see outside? Obviously a beach is like the obvious answer, but
Grand
there's some
Canyon, fuck it.
like cool, like wrestle with the mountains behind you.
Right.
Like,
Red
Rock Rumble.
like give
There
some
you go.
cool shit. Like
I'm still mad that we didn't get somebody thrown off a boat during SummerSlam.
I still think that they'll re-up with the Thunderdome, because as it looks, there's no vaccine coming. There's
Yeah,
nothing
it's not
happening.
getting better anytime soon.
So I would just keep paying them because the Thunderdome's really cool.
I must be in the minority. The sooner they get rid of the Thunderdome, the better. It's too much. I don't like it. There's nothing I like about watching TV in the Thunderdome. I would just rather see real people responding, even though they're performance center athletes, real people responding to what's happening in the ring.
Okay. Matt, Mark, any thoughts?
I'm a fan of the Thunderdome for what it's worth. I mean, it's better than having no fans at all, or even the Performance Center fans. That was a plus. But yeah, I don't mind the Thunderdome. I mean, I'm okay if it goes away and we get back to having an actual live crowd there again. But for what it's worth in these unprecedented times, I accept it.
Yeah, I mean, if the options are 0 fans or Thunderdome, then I'm going to choose the Thunderdome. Obviously, live fans, actual fans is going to be preferred, but we don't know when that's going to be. Like, even you saying that there's concert tickets being sold, like for WrestleMania weekend, like it's not going to happen. Like, even if they sold out, like, you're not having live concerts at that point.
I mean, I've seen local theaters, things like that, start to announce like the Bethlehem, where we've seen NXT. They're announcing rescheduled dates in March and April and May, and I'm going, okay, that's still probably not a thing that's gonna happen. I mean, I get, like, at some point you have to start rescheduling and revisiting the idea, like, but if you're being realistic, we're probably looking this time next year as a more realistic target. Tim, any thoughts, or we move on to the final story?
I'm very pro Thunderdome, but I whatever they decide, I'm sure they've thought about it for. They knew going in when the end date was, so they've had all this time to come up with a plan. And if their plan at the end of this all is just to go back to the PC, then shame on them.
All right, and then the final story I have here, and I saved this one for last for you, Tim. During an interview with BT Sport, Jeff Hardy said that No More Words will be back when there are fans. If there's any more reason to put on your fucking masks and be smart for the next couple months,
this song,
there it is, folks. Put them
should
on.
do it. He said, no more words when we get to do in front of a crowd again. That was part of me re-signing. I was like, if we get in front of people again, I'd like to use it because I know everybody wants it. He also, in the interview, talked about his desire to bring back Willow, his alter ego from Impact, to have a feud with Bray Wyatt. He said, Willow is my go-to wrestling persona. So Dream of Mine would be like to do that before he was done. Bring Willow to the WWE universe. And feud with the Fiend.
So you guys, if any of you guys been on TikTok and seen that video type of where it's like they show one thing and it's like nope, and the other one's like yup. Nope is Willow and yep is No More Words.
Yeah.
Like,
What the hell is even that?
You don't get like no hard pass on Willow.
yeah. The Willow thing really missed me. Big time.
It missed me in ROH. It missed me in Impact. It's gonna miss me in WWE.
Yeah, I mean, if
change
you
your
tie
paint,
it with
do something. I don't know.
Yeah, if you tie it with the Fiend, maybe I can be mildly interested because it's the Fiend. But I'm here.
Look at the Fiend and then look at Willow. It's just like okay.
Willow looks like Willow's mask is like a starfish.
Yeah, it looks like he is going to Mardi Gras.
Who the hell is this?
Yeah, give me no more words though. Like let's
Definitely.
get back to having people, and let's get back to like cool entrance themes, and maybe by then Keith Lee will get new entrance music, right, Ryan?
You know what? It can't be worse than the shit he has now.
All right. Does anybody have anything they want to add? Otherwise, we'll get out of here. All right. Let's go around the room here. Tim, plug anything you want to plug.
Be sure to hit me up at Not the Tool Man across all platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat if you care. Tomorrow, I'm going back to streaming. Twitch.tv/Not the Tool Man. I have a date and many more with Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo Switch. I'm just going to be a degenerate like I was in 1996, except this time I'm 33 years old. And I'm going to do it again. And my reaction speed's not the same, but my passion is. And I'm ready. So yeah. And if you like wrestling podcasts, like them a little more retro, Final Wrestling Place, me and my best friend Marcus, we talk about the history of wrestling. And we take things and we put them in either the good place or the bad place. Season 12 ends this week. We are putting head-to-head in our cinematic matches conclusion, Jerry the King Lawler versus Terry Funk in an empty arena match against Halftime Heat. Not the one with the Velveteen Dream, the one with The Rock and Mankind. So an empty arena final. One match goes in the good place, escorted in by Kevin Nash, and one goes to the bad place, escorted in by the Harris brothers, because they are the worst.
That's the truth. Ryan, anything to plug?
No, just watch Chronic matches.
Matt, how about you?
Oh man, how about top Chronic matches? So, I dabble in wrestling documentaries outside of what is on the network. There are a few that I would recommend to our viewers. One is this poster you see behind me, Resurrection of Jake the Snake, very good. The other I just checked out this week. It is You Cannot Kill David Arquette. Very, very good stuff. Check that out. Gives you a little glimpse inside his WCW thing, inside his indie run, his death match with Nick fucking Gage. Like all good stuff. Indie wrestling documentaries as well as pro wrestling documentaries, a little dark, a little tough to watch. So, not for the faint of heart, but still a very interesting watch, especially if you want to get to that pro wrestling side, see kind of the death of WCW. All the good stuff is included in that film, so definitely check that out. Check out our Instagram page. This week we are featuring Noemi Gomez. We are starting Hispanic Heritage Month, LWO for life. So make sure you're following us on there. Other than that, stay tuned to 3 Count Thursday. We might have done a project recently with a company. Maybe we didn't.
Ooh, I like the cliffhanger. Intern Mark, got anything to plug?
I do. I want to give a happy birthday shout out, if I may, to Kirby the Magnificent Fluffy Dog. Will be turning 13 tomorrow. Isn't that exciting?
No kidding.
What a magnificent creature.
He is magnificent. He's covered in fur, and he's a good boy. So he'll be 13 tomorrow.
13.
So exciting. And 13, he's catching up to Skip.
Wow, that's awesome.
Let me think what else. This Saturday at Roots Country Market, it's their Saturday from 8 to 3. You can stop by at Roots Market. It doesn't have to be a Tuesday. It's a Saturday. You can go down there and find some great stuff at the flea market. It's always a good time. Hodecker Celery will not be there, unfortunately.
Oh, then what's the point?
Can you at least get a Rob sub?
Yeah, they're only Tuesdays.
Is Rob Subs going to be open?
The Rob's is not there either.
Oh,
no.
Yeah, why bother? You know what? No, Mark, I'm cutting you off, Mark. Don't go to.
Will anybody be peddling Paw Paw?
You know what? There's a good chance there'll be a peddler at Paw Paws, and today is National Paw Paw Day.
Of course it is.
And practically everybody I talk to Didn't know what a pawpaw was and never had one. So if you haven't, go out and get them. They're in season right now.
I have also never had a
They're
pawpaw.
tasty, kind of.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah,
They're kind of a
Mark, you should have
custardy.
got us some
They're-
and delivered them to all of us.
I want Mark to deliver us pawpaw flavored whoopie pies at some point in the next year.
There you
That
go.
would be perfect. That would be perfect. I'll see what I can do.
All right. And then our guest tonight, of course, Ant from the Rant Foundation. Ant, let everybody know where they can find you and subscribe to you and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, first, thanks guys for having me. It was really awesome chatting with you all. It was a really good time. Keep up the good work. I enjoy your show, so just keep doing what you're doing. Keep being positive. You can find me at Game of Ant on my personal Twitter, at Rant Foundation across all platforms. Our show drops every Tuesday. Patreon.com/The Rant Foundation. We are the show that keeps wrestling real. So join the foundation.
All right. Yeah. Make sure you subscribe to them. There's not a lot of us out in the wrestling podcast world that actually enjoys wrestling and can find some good in it. So make sure you check them out. Definitely. And thanks again, Ant, for joining us. Make sure you just go to 3countthursday.com, all of our social media, our YouTube, subscribe to us, share it. You can find our merchandise. You can find our Patreon page and all of that. But all of it, 3countthursday.com. Of course, our home network is ngscsports.com, and we're glad to be a part of NGSC Sports. But until next week, everybody, stay safe, stay smart, and go for the pin.